We're starting today our first class of biology for this year. What I would like to start with is to have an overview, the subject, see how could we plan this year ahead. Okay, so as you can see here, I have divided the subject into 30 chapters. You may find this is quite different from the textbook, but I prefer to have like small topics so it would be easy for you to track your progress. So again, you can see here there's 15 topics on the left side, another 15 on the right side. My plan is to get to half of the syllabus by end of November. So right here, we reach till excretion by mid or the end of November. As we start December, which is the last month of this year, we will reach till the coordination and response. So basically, the plan is to get 60% of the topics done by end of December, right? Then from January all the way to March, so Jan till March, I'm talking here about 1st of March, right? We'll be fully done with the rest of the topics, okay? So from March onwards, so March all the way till May, your exams are in May, we'll be just doing full revisions, okay? So let's just quickly recap. We have 30 topics. 60% of the topics will be done by December, the end of this year. And then we will go to the rest of the 40 from Jan until end of Feb, right? Okay. That's meaning by the end of the last day of February, we'll be fully done. Following this, March all the way to the exam, okay, we'll be just revising, okay? You have a couple of exams in May, and you have one exam in June. The multiple choice paper 2 is in June, and the first two papers, paper 4, paper 6, are in May, okay? I don't have the exact dates for the exams, but that's how it's always been. Now, let's just quickly check the topics. Like, what do you actually do in biology? You have what we call essential topics. Those are topics that would help you a lot all along your studies, meaning as long as you study in biology, you would need to have good knowledge about cells, good knowledge about enzymes, molecules, and respiration. Then you have topics related to organs. This is about nutrition, meaning the way you digest food or the way plants make their own food. Transport, that's your heart, and reproduction. Okay, we have two topics that are exclusive for humans, mean those topics only apply for humans. Those are respiratory system. Obviously, plants don't have lungs, and excretion, right? The remaining topics, as you can hear, are more related to the environment, okay? So that's what biology is all about. So you can divide it into topics that are related to the small things, molecules. You have topics related to your body, and to plants, and you have topics related to the environment. Someone is asking, his name is Marwan, he said, is this for IGCSE? Yes, so that's for students who are taking the IGCSE exams. Schools will be different, like each school has its own exam policy and so on. So I was talking all the way about students who are taking their IGCSE this year. Okay, so let's get to the subject. Usually, these days, it's getting really difficult to tell what is living, what's non-living, especially with the artificial intelligence, machines. So how could you possibly tell if something like a rock is living or fungus is living? Like, how do you tell a living from a non-living, right? It's getting, as I told you, is not very easy to tell. In biology, we have 7 characteristics. You've probably heard of them. Those 7 characteristics would help you to tell which is living, which is non-living. So for instance, if this rock could possibly grow in size, growth is one sign of life, right? If this rock possibly multiplies, reproduces, if this rock releases energy, feels warm, these are all signs of life. Now, look, what I want from you, I want somebody to raise her hand and tell me those 7 characteristics. Tell me what are these 7 characteristics of life. So let me try them. I have Alia.
Yes.
You raise your hand.
Yes. So the first one is movement,
So first is movement.
respiration,
That's right.
sensitivity,
So movement, respiration, sensitivity, right?
growth,
There is growth. Good one.
reproduction,
There is reproduction.
excretion,
There's excretion. And
nutrition.
nutrition, right? So again, these are, so the mnemonic MRS, these are the first initials of these 7 characteristics, right? So again, I don't want you to memorize things without you understanding what is it about. So let's just dig deep into what these characteristics stand for. Okay, let's start. First is movement. Now, movement, just let me answer somebody quickly. She's asking, can I take this course in year 9 and take biology exam in May, June after finishing year 10? If you're year 9, what I advise is to get biology done once this year, and perhaps you repeat it over the summer. You go over it over the summer, and maybe you take it in October 2025. Some students in year 9, they take the subject once and they repeat it in year 10, so it's optional. All right, let me get to those 7 characteristics. My first one is movement. What is movement all about? Look, movement is just the act of changing position, right? Movement is pretty obvious when it comes to animals, but it is not very obvious when it comes to a tree, right? Trees, you don't see how a tree moves because they move really slowly. But in some cases, movement is quite obvious. Take this plant, for instance. You'd realize what? You'd realize that this plant actually moved. That's a rare thing, right? That's not like common that a plant feeds or moves like this on an insect. I want you to think about it. what characteristics do you see in this example? So from those 7 characteristics I was just telling you about there, how many of these do you actually see? It's movement, right? But there's 2 more you can see in this example. So other than movement, what 2 other characteristics are there? There is, somebody said nutrition. Nutrition is absolutely right. Can you think of another characteristics? I have Emmanuel. What do you think is the other characteristic other than movement and nutrition?
Sensitivity.
Yes, good one. It is sensitivity. How? Because look, as soon as the insect landed on the plant sensed, responded, and closed and started to feed. So again, in this example, you got 3 characteristics. Movement, obviously it moves like this. Second, it is sensitivity because it detected that that insect standing there. Third, it was the fact that it is feeding. It's going to soon feed on that insect. Okay? I want to show you another example, and I want somebody to show me what characteristics are shown in this example. So look, I'm taking a light bulb, just putting it right here, and I'm taking this plant, and you can see that the plant grows to the light, like this. If I take the light bulb and I put it on the other end, it's going to grow to the other side. Can somebody, that's movement, right? Obviously, it is movement. But other than movement, what do you actually see in this example? So can somebody else tell me what other examples do we see here? I have Carmen, and I have a gentleman or a lady who did not write her name. If you could just write your name. Because I can call you by your name. You're raising your hand right now, but I don't know who you are. So if you could write your name, it would be easy for me to. Yep. So Carmen,
It's moving towards the light.
movement.
Towards the light.
I know. What's the other characteristic?
Growth.
Very good. So there's movement, growth, and
Nutrition.
very good. Why nutrition? Because plants feed, right? Plants do photosynthesis. Whenever there's light, they make their own food. There's a 4th characteristic here. Can you guys think what is the 4th one? I got Mr. Here you go.
Sensitivity.
Yeah, write your name, gentlemen. I can't write your name. You're like 3 dots for me, okay? Yeah, so 4 characteristics. What are the 4th one? Growth, movement, sensitivity, and nutrition. Why nutrition? Because it actually, plants do photosynthesis. Plants, whenever there is light, they start to make their own food. Okay? Good. Moving on is now gonna be nutrition. What is nutrition is all about? Nutrition is just a fact that you feed. But why do we eat? We feed and eat just to get energy. Basically, do you see all the food that you eat throughout your day? You know what you're gonna do with all that food? That food turns into something called glucose. Like if you eat fats, if you eat sugars, if you eat proteins, they will eventually somehow, if you want energy, they'll turn to glucose, and that glucose will be used as a source of energy. All right, respire. Okay, and then what are you going to use that energy? You're going to use it for movement, right? You're going to use it for keeping warm, right? You keep warm because of food that you eat, right? And usually, like, to summarize all the things you do with the energy, like you, as I told you, you grow, you get energy, you keep warm. We have a word to describe all these activities. What's that new word? The word is metabolism. Again, look at the definition on top. Respiration, release energy for metabolism. What is metabolism? Metabolism is the action of, like, all the reactions you have in your body. These reactions could be like you build up, you grow, or you break down and you get energy. One more time, what is respiration? Respiration is to, let me write it so you learn it. Respiration. All right, let me just show you where I'm writing. Respiration is to release energy for metabolism, okay? And metabolism, as I told you, is all the chemical reactions that occur in your body. One way I use to remember, it's like the first two letters, they like the same. Respiration is release of energy, right? So again, how many characteristics we've just talked about so far? We talked about respiration, movement, and just, right? Let's talk sensitivity. What about sensitivity? Sensitivity is the ability, look, to detect and respond. So like if some insect comes close to her eye, how is she supposed to respond? She will simply close her eye, right? Like this. What am I going to call the insect in this case? The insect is what I call a stimulus. What's a stimulus or stimuli plural? A stimulus is any change you can detect. Think about it. How many things in your room now you can detect? You can detect the sound, the light, my voice, right? All of these are called what? We call them stimuli. So sensitivity is to be able to detect, respond to, what's the word again? Stimuli. Stimulus is one, stimuli is many, is all the changes you could actually detect. All right? Good. So far, we've done what? So far, we've done Mrs., right? M, R, and S. Movement, respiration, sensitivity. Now it's time for G and growth. What is growth? Growth is just the action of increasing in size, right? The most obvious thing, like the most obvious definition of growth, is an increase in size. You can see this clearly in humans. Like when you were an infant, like this, you are continuously increasing in size. But there's another sign of growth. Do you know what the other sign of growth? The other sign of growth is mass, right? Because you also get heavier as you grow older, right? There's another sign of growth. So again, there is size, mass, and number of cells. Let me show you what I mean here by number of cells. Look, this guy cut his finger. Every day after he cut his finger, he was taking pictures of them. And then he stacked those pictures on one another. And you can see there's a growth here. How do we have growth? Because the skin was cut here, right? The cells around the cut, what are these cells doing? The cells around the cut, they are increasing in number. All right? So growth is not only like you get bigger, you get heavier. No, the best way to measure growth is by an increase in number of cells. All right? That's why with time, like especially if the cut is big, you notice that it leaves a scar, right? You notice that it leaves like white part here. That's because you got new cells, and those new cells are the cells that you were born with, the cells with lighter color before your skin got darker. All right? Good. So again, you notice the definition here, what it says? Increase in size, dry mass. Why did it say dry mass? Why did we just say mass? Like why in biology we're very keen on mentioning its dry mass rather than just saying mass in general. Look, let's take this example. I just drank water. Like, what would you expect to happen to my mass right now? Now that I've drank water, my mass is increasing, right? Does that mean that I've just grown in front of you? No, right? So if you drink water, or if a plant gains water, that's not a good way of measuring growth, because you may sweat, you lose water, you may drink water. So fresh mass might be very misleading because it increases, decreases throughout the day. For that reason, if you are to measure growth, what do? You take the dry mass, which is what? Dry mass. It's the full mass of the living thing minus its water. Now, obviously, I can't do this to humans. I can't measure the dry mass of a human because I have to kill that person. But for plants, it's more like possible. So let's say I want to find the dry mass of this leaf. What am I have to do? I weigh it like this. Then I put it into an oven like that. A few hours later, the leaf would look something like what I have here. The mass of that dry leaf is its dry mass. And again, this is a true measurement of growth because water would change the mass and it could be very misleading. Okay? So again, so far we've done M, R, S, G. Now comes E, right? E, no, Mrs. Grant. It's R then E. Sorry. Yeah, R. What is R? R is reproduction. That's the second R. What is reproduction? By the way, if someone asks me, like, among those seven, which one is the most important characteristic of life, I'll tell you it's reproduction. Why? Because reproduction is exclusive for living things. You know, you can see that many devices can sense, many things can increase in size, but there's very unlikely to find a non-living that can reproduce. Reproduction is the #1 sign of life. You can see this in animals. You can also see it in plants. Plants do reproduce. How? With seeds, for instance, right? The definition of reproduction is quite simple. To make more members, but they have to be of the same species. You got the point? Meaning, if this cat is giving birth, is going to give birth to other kittens, cats, right? It's not going to give birth to bunnies or puppies, right? So that's essential here. So that the living thing will make more of its own species. Okay? Now comes E. E here stands for excretion. That's like one super important definition. It's worth 3 marks because there are 3 things here. Look, excretion is to remove. What are we going to have to remove? We remove excess, meaning the things that you have more than your body requirements. Say you drank too much water, you're gonna have to remove the excess. You're gonna have to remove wastes. Good example of waste could be like something like carbon dioxide. Like, see that if I just do like this means I am doing what? I am excreting CO2 here, right? Which is a waste. Or toxic. What is toxic? One example of a toxic substance you make in your body is the one you have in your urine, which is known as urea. All right? So again, 3 marks because you mentioned its removal of excess if it is something that is more than what you need. Wastes, something that's a product of maybe respiration, like carbon dioxide, or toxic, right? Toxic means something that is poisonous, such as urea. Okay? All good? The last one is nutrition. What is nutrition is all about? Nutrition is your ability to obtain nutrients, right? So again, I'm briefly saying the definition. I'm saying like the important part of the definition, but in your notes, you'll find them quite longer than this. Again, nutrition in animals, you just feed, right? But when it comes to plants, remember photosynthesis? One of you have said that plants, when they get the light, they do photosynthesis. So basically, the plant takes carbon dioxide, that same gas you breathe out. They take water. In the presence of light, what do? They make the food. They make food for themselves and they make food for everyone else. So that is what that is nutrition in plants. Ironically, the gas that is a waste, the plant waste a gas, the gas that they waste is the one that is good for us. So for plants, oxygen is a waste. For us, oxygen is essential for life. Okay, so let's recap. Look what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna list those characteristics, and for each characteristic, I'm gonna mention one important word that would help you to remember it, okay? So look, for movement, it's gonna be change in position of the entire animal or part of a plant. Do you remember the RE in respiration? It's release. Release of what? Release of energy. Sensitivity, we got detect, respond. Growth, increase in size. So here we say detect. Here we say increase in size, dry mass, etc. Reproduction, remember what the essential part about reproduction is: to make more cats, kittens, dogs, puppies, right? So it's gonna have to be what? It's gonna have to be the same species. Moreover, we got E, excretion, it's removal, all right? And lastly, it's nutrition, which is to obtain, okay? Obtain nutrients. Okay, so we're done with that first part of what we're supposed to do. I am gonna try something with you now. You have this list. I sent you this as a PDF earlier today. I want to match what's on the left here with what's on the right, okay? Let's try something. With the first line, could somebody find me what is the characteristic that you see in this line here? Provide nutrients for tissue repair, right? Yes, can you tell me?
Nutrition.
So that one here is gonna be nutrition. Good. Now, here, breathing in and out. I'm aiming here for what? I am aiming for three characteristics. Again, as I'm breathing in and out right now, what three characteristics can you think of? Subhi?
Respiration.
Yeah, respiration, because you get oxygen. Where else? If I'm moving my chest like this, right? Isn't that movement? Also, what else could it be?
Execution. Sorry.
Yes, good
Excretion.
one, good one. Excretion. How? Because when I'm breathing out carbon dioxide, right? So the action of breathing in and out is not only one, it's movement of your chest in and out, respiration because you get oxygen, and excretion because you get rid of CO2. There is one characteristic related to smelling. What is the most obvious characteristic when you smell a flower, for instance? So what would be the most obvious characteristic? Carmen? Any clue? If I'm smelling, the most obvious one, it's gonna be sensitivity. Okay? Here. Plant bending to the light. If you got a plant and the plant going to the window, you still remember we did this earlier? What three characteristics are associated with plants bending to the light? Let's try with Marwan.
Movement.
Yeah. What are the other ones? Do you remember?
Sensitivity and growth.
Uh-huh. Can you come with the fourth one?
Mm.
Try.
Respiration.
No. One more. Because they make their own food, right?
And
According to
nutrition.
yes, awesome, right? Nutrition. What is chlorophyll, anyways? Chlorophyll is that green pigment, green color that plants use to make their own food. So plants using chlorophyll, it's gonna be, if they make their own food, what characteristic am I talking here about? I'm talking about nutrition. Can somebody figure out what characteristic is when bacteria divide? So if you have bacteria dividing, what is that characteristics, Fatma?
Reproduction.
Awesome, yeah, it is reproduction. Lastly, I have a disgusting one. There's a cockroach, and you turn on the lights in the room, and you found that cockroach is running under the fridge, the bed, any of these things. So, can you think of characteristics related to this one, Yara?
Sensitivity.
Yeah, can you think of another one?
Movement.
Whoa, very good. Movement, sensitivity, and movement. Yes, these are the ones. Okay? So those are the characteristics. I want to challenge somebody now. I have the definitions on the left, and I want you to do what? I want you to find what is the correct characteristic to what I have here on the left side. if your mic is not working or something, you can always write in the chat. I see that Nawar is writing, Alia is writing, so I'm following up there. It would be wiser if you just took Hajar.
The first one would be respiration, I'm pretty sure.
Good one. Right, good. And the ability to detect stimuli and make appropriate response. What characteristic is this one? Can we try Alia?
Sensitivity.
Good one. An act of causing a change of position. What characteristic is this one? So let's try with Subhi.
Movement.
Good. Lastly, removal of an organism of a toxic material and waste product of metabolism. Removal is what characteristic, Yara?
Excretion.
Okay, good. Now, look, every now and then, just to make sure that you're actually there, still alive, still watching the class, you did not go anywhere, you'll find a question like the one I have here. Those questions are, you're gonna receive like something like this on your screen to prove that you're still there, prove that you're watching, following. I want you to answer this. At the end of the class, I send a report to your parents just to make sure that you're actually following the lesson. It's pretty easy, right? I think everyone who's watching the lesson would be able to answer. So choose either A, B, C, or D. It's smelling, right? You smell a flower. What's the point of you smelling? Which characteristic as you smell? You're not breathing the flower. You're not eating the flower because somebody said like something else. No, you're just like this. So what characteristic is the most obvious one I have here? All right. So here we go. The characteristic is this. Why not movement? I mean, I'm just smelling, right? I usually, when I smell, I don't move anything, right? It's just like the smelling of the thing, right? I don't know why some people have chosen movement because it's not like related, right? Smell. Do you move your nose? No, you don't, right? It's like stays as it is. All right. Okay, now let's shift to something else because look, so far we did some great work because we have finished the first topic of biology. Imagine. Second topic I have is called classification. And whereas classification is all about, like, what does the word classification stand for? Look, if you were a nerd just like myself and you check those scientific journals, you find things related to living things like discoveries of some new plant, new animal, and those things happen on daily basis. Like every day they discover some new plant, some new animal, and we're ending up with like more than like 100 million different living things we have on this planet. And yet we need to study these things. You may tell, like, why should I study all about plants, all about animals? I'm not interested. I'm only interested in cats and dogs. So why do I need to learn about fish in the ocean, corals, plants in the forest? The easy answer, or the simple answer, is that those things in front of you might save you one day. How? If you go to the pharmacy, like the majority of medicines you have in the pharmacy come from plants. Some come from animals. So one day, those living things will find you a product that would save your life. The more we study them, the more likely that we will benefit, right? Plus, yeah, somebody said very good point. He or she said, I'm not familiar very well with the name. He said they're all connected, right? All living things. If you lose one living thing, it would cause a drastic effect on all other living things. So again, what does the word classification stands for? To classify is to organize, to group. Okay, so again, if you are to classify something, means to group living things into categories, and that makes it very easy for you to study them. Meaning, instead of me studying every single animal, no, I can group them into insects, mammals, reptiles, and so on. So I study one member, and that would be good enough to study all other members, right? Now, how do we classify? What's the best way to classify living things? Think about it. If you have like a bunch of animals or plants, what would be the best thing to use so that you could classify them? One of the best thing to use here is by their looks, by their appearance, right? For instance, if I see an animal looking like this, that's a bat, right? I can classify it as a bird, right? Or if I look closely, I find that it has like ear flaps. Those are useful. Those are only for mammals. So the external appearance, the external features are very, very helpful for classification. We have a word for that. We have a word to describe the external appearance, and that is what? That's what I call morphology. Nawar, if you have a question, you could just raise your hand. You can speak out if you have any question. You want to speak? Speak. Okay. Great. So what is morphology? Morphology is another word for external appearance. But external appearance might be misleading, just like with the bat. You would think if you see a bat like this, you may think it's a bird, right? That's why we rely on another feature, and that other feature we call anatomy. Again, what does morphology stands for? Morphology is from the outside, and anatomy is the internal things like your bones, your heart, other structures inside your body, right? So those are the basic things we use for classification. What other features we could also rely on for classification? We have another feature which is just as useful. I'm going to tell you more about in a little while, which is DNA. I'm going to tell you more about this in just a little while, so just stay tuned. But before I get to DNA, I want to show you what is a species is. So again, what's a species? Look, usually only animals that belong to the same species are able to reproduce, right? So again, cat with cat, dog with dog. Some rare examples like the one you have in front of you here is possible. Like for instance, horse, donkey. There are different species, right? But because they're related, because sometime in the past, donkeys and horses were members of the same species, they are still able to reproduce. But when they reproduce, they give rise to a mule. This is not a species. How? Because the animal or the offspring, what does offspring mean? Offspring means like baby, puppy, kitten, right? So that offspring, which is like the child, is infertile. And that tells you what? That tells you that parents here are what? The parents are not members of the same species. Let me repeat. So again, donkey met horse. Donkey and horse had an offspring, which is this child here, right? When this offspring try to reproduce, it can't. So what does that tell you about the original parents here? It tells you that those two are members of different species. All right? So one more time, let's check the definition. This is quite important. So tell me if you're not following. What's a species? A species is a group of organisms. They reproduce. That's one essential thing. They must be able to reproduce. But the offspring, like this guy here, the offspring must also be able to reproduce. If, first of all, they couldn't reproduce in the first place, different species, like cat and dog, they can't reproduce in the first place. Or if they were able to reproduce and the offspring wasn't able, then they are different species. All right? Do you get it? Do you have a question there? I think Hajar has a question.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to put my hand on.
All right. Good. So again, what's the definition of species? Let's write it so you remember. That's excretion definition, species definition. They are quite important. So what am I going to say here? I'm going to say organisms that can reproduce to produce offspring that is fertile. Fertile means able to reproduce, okay? Good. Now, yes, do you remember what I just told you there? I told you one other way that you could tell if organisms belong to the same species is by means of DNA, okay? So what is DNA, first of all? Like, what is DNA to start with? DNA is like a molecule. Let's say I have this organism here, okay? And I want to identify it. I have no clue what that thing is. I just found it on the street. And I want to identify it. I want to see what is it. Usually, I take a sample of its DNA. DNA is a substance you receive from your parents, you inherit from your parents, and as you can see here, it has a code. That code you have on your DNA here is unique, meaning everybody has its own unique DNA, all right? And with this code, if I just check that code, and I see how many similarities, how many differences there is. If there's a lot of similarities, means they are related. If there's a lot of differences, means they are not related. Let me show you a simpler example, like the one I have here. Look, you and your sibling have very similar DNA. Okay? Why? Because you and your sibling have very recent ancestor. What's an ancestor? Just think of as a dad or a grandfather. Even you and your cousin have very similar DNA, right? Not as similar as you and your sibling, but quite similar. All right? So what does that tell you? It tells you that you and your cousin have some distant ancestor. Again, what does the word ancestor mean? Ancestor is just like a grandparent or great grandparent or so on. Imagine even you and your neighbor has a lot of in common. Why do you have a lot of common? Because almost all humans are related. Why? Because we have very, very long distance ancestor. But how can we tell this? Like, how did they find all of this? How could it possible? Like, if you find a baby on the street, how could you tell his parents? You just do like this. You get his DNA, right? The DNA has a code, like the one I have here, and we scan it, right? I want you to take a look at those 4 organisms, and I want somebody to tell me which 2 organisms are the ones that are most related. Can you tell? Check the code that I have here. See how many differences. The greater the differences, the less related they are. All right? So which 2 of these in front of you are the ones that are mostly closely related? Can you tell us?
1 and 2.
Yeah, one speak.
Organism 1 and 2.
Yeah, how did you tell? How did you find it's 1 and 2 the ones that are mostly related?
Because it only has one difference.
Yeah,
like
there's only one difference. And which one's like the odd one, the ones that least related? It's the 4th one, has so many differences. Okay, and that's how we do it. That's how we could classify organisms. We just check the DNA and see how many differences they got. Okay. All right. Let me show you one more example, which these ones here. I got a dog, a fox, a wolf. Do you know that they are all related? And many of these can still reproduce and form fertile offspring. What does that tell you here? It tells you that these organisms are related somehow to an ancestor. This animal you see here on top doesn't exist anymore, is extinct, it disappeared, but we know it's there, right? We know it must be there because all 3 of them are quite very related. The DNA is so similar, right? And that tells you what? Tells you that sometime in the past, this animal on top was there. So this was there and gave rise to dogs, fox, and wolves. We have one word to describe what has just happened here. We say, look what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that these organisms have somehow evolved. What does evolve mean? Meaning they have changed over time to become what? To become better adapted, to become like stronger, faster, right? So again, what does the word to evolve, evolution mean? Meaning the organism with time becomes better adapted, becomes faster, stronger, best suited to where it lives. And again, how do we know all of this? You tell me, like, you weren't there. How do you know that there's some animal, how a horse used to be in the past? It's all recorded. You have like a hard drive inside your body, which is your DNA, and it records all the information you have. Okay? Can I check if you guys are still alive? Can we try this? They're asking you which characteristic of living thing is not, be careful, not demonstrated in this experiment. So which one of these is not shown in this example? Right? So can I read it here? Look what it says. You have a plant like this. The plant was exposed to the light. And here it went like this. So there are characteristics that are visible here, right? It bent like this. It increased in size. And it was able to detect the light, right? So which characteristic is not shown here? So growth, yes. Movement, it moved. It detected the light, but it did not excrete. There's no sign of any removal of waste. Okay? Yes. So now we're done of this part. I just have one little thing to tell you about, which is this. That's what I call binomial system. Bi means what? Bi means two. So bi is two. Nomial means name. Okay? So again, usually, do you remember that fact that we have so many different organisms around, and we are yet to study them? For us to make our life easy, because we want to identify living things, they decided to do what? They decided to give two names for each living thing, right? Meaning, for instance, humans, we call them Homo sapien. What does that mean? Homo means it's like the large family that current humans, us, and old humans, like those guys here, they become extinct. Both of us and them, they're no longer there. Both we belong to the same genus. A genus is a large group that living thing belong to. The second word, the second name here, is what we call what? Is we call species. So again, that's a genus name. It's like your family name, right? So first name is the species. Second name is what we call the genus. Here they've just been flipped, meaning the larger group is put first, genus, and the smaller group is put second. Let me show you another example, like what I have here. The tiger and the lion, they both have the same genus. Why? Because they're quite related, right? Just like you and your sibling. But the species name is different. That's what makes them different. So again, to sum up, what is a binomial system? A binomial system is two names. First one is what we call genus. Usually you start that genus name with a capital letter to tell what it is. And the second one is what we call the species name. Start with a small letter. Both words are written in Latin. Why Latin? Because it's like well known language all over Europe, so they could all read it. Okay, why not Arabic? Just like we didn't contribute much to this, so they have their own letters used there. Okay, so yeah, so we use that system of two names here just to identify living things. First is genus, second is species, and that applies for all living things, including us. All right. Let me show you something. Let me show you animals. So let's go back to our list, show you where we are. So far, we've done this, this. Now I'm going to go to the classification of animals, and that's the last thing we're going to be doing today. How do you classify animals? Yeah. Look, all animals around us can be divided into two main groups. So that's the animal kingdom here. we have group of animals, we call them vertebrates. What's a vertebrate? Peel the back here. That's your vertebrae. All right. So animals like fish, amphibians like frogs, reptiles, birds, and us mammals, what do they all have in common? We all have a backbone here, right? You ever eat a fish? There's a backbone there inside. The other group of animals is what we call invertebrates because they don't have that vertebrae. Let's focus on this. Let's focus on vertebrae. Okay. Someone's asking, how does a frog have a backbone? They do have a backbone. I can show you a picture of a skeleton of an animal, right? No, they have a backbone. I can just type in Google frog skeleton. Anyways, let's take a look at fish. How could you tell if an organism is actually a fish? Look, first of all, they don't have limbs. They don't have legs or arms, right? What do they have instead? They have fins, okay? In addition, they got gills. They don't have lungs like us. The body is streamlined for swimming. Also, fish have something unique, is the fact that they lay eggs in water, and those eggs are jelly eggs. Okay? Not like birds, not like chicken eggs, the ones you have omelet with. No, those are jelly eggs. One other feature of fish is the fact that if you have an aquarium, one important thing if you have an aquarium is to have a thermometer in the aquarium. Do you know why? If you want the fish to stay long enough, you must have a thermometer and you have like thermostat. Problem with fish and amphibians and reptiles is that they are all cold-blooded. What does cold-blooded mean? Once I had an aquarium and the electricity went off, and next day in the morning I saw them, all my fish, that was like really sad. I was a child. I was like even younger than you said. All of my fish were like this in the morning. How? Why? Because the electricity went off, the aquarium went too warm, and they all die, right? So yeah, so that's why fish are described as cold-blooded. Not like you, right? You may stay in very hot place, you may stay in very cold place because you sweat, you shiver, right? You can moderate your body temperature, right? What's your question? If you have a question, just type it, okay? Yeah, let's speak about amphibians. Amphibians, just like fish, cold-blooded, meaning you can't travel around with a frog. Why? Because the frog can't live in a cold or hot place. They have to be in one specific environment. Another thing is that frogs, do you remember fish eggs? These? Same here. Jelly eggs. It's quite scary. Look, I have another picture scarier. That these are all baby frogs, jelly eggs, okay? Now, something really interesting about amphibians is the fact that they breathe through the skin. So a frog can exchange gases through its skin. And they come with a lung. You see that big thing coming out of it, right? That is its lung. So frogs, amphibians can exchange gases, skin and lungs. Remember fish? Through gills only, right? Someone's asking, where's your question? So cold-blooded animals mean they like cold environment? No, not right. Cold-blooded means you can't control your body temperature. Right? We're warm-blooded. Why am I warm-blooded? I am warm-blooded because I control my body, not like because I'm warmer than the frog. It might be that the frog is warmer than me, but I control my body temperature. Yeah, so reptiles, what's special about reptiles? Still cold-blooded. They have lungs, only lungs. They lay eggs, right? But the eggs they lay, they come with hard shell, leathery, very hard shell. You may ask me, like, why is it there? It was jelly eggs. But with reptiles, it comes hard shell. It's because they lay their eggs on land. Frogs, fish, they lay eggs in water. Those lay their eggs on land. So on land, the eggs will dry up. So they must have very thick shell. Another thing is the skin. Here, the skin is covered with dry scales. In amphibians, the skin has no covering, nothing at all. That's the only one, that's the only animal that comes without any covering on the skin. Fish have scales, but the scales here are like what? The scales are moist. All right? So again, skin covering. With fish, it's scaly but moist. With amphibians, it's no covering, moist skin, no covering at all. And when it comes to reptiles, it's dry scales. Birds. Skin here is covered with what? You got feathers. But there's one interesting fact about birds is their feet. At some point in the past, if you go back millions of years in the past, you would find there was no birds on this planet. There were only reptiles. The feet of birds still remind us of what they used to be. They used to be reptiles. So that's why the skin here has scales. So birds do have scales, but only on their feet. They got eggs with hard shell. They got lungs. And they are the only one, or they are the first one in our list here, that they are warm-blooded. Okay? So again, 4 facts about birds. The feathers, scales only on their feet, lungs, eggs with hard shell, plus one last feature, which is this, the beak. Nobody has a beak except birds. Like bats don't have a beak. Okay? The last but not least is mammals. Mammals, you know it, they're warm-blooded. They give birth and breastfeed. The reason why we call them mammals, do you know why we call mammals mammals? Because mammals come with mammary gland. What's a mammary gland? That's the one that produces milk. So she breastfeeds with milk. That's a mammary gland. Also, you can see there is the ear flap, external ear flap. You may call it pinna. It's both acceptable. Also, something unique about mammals is their teeth. Only mammals come with, count how many types of teeth you have in your mouth. You have 4 types. Only mammals come with 4 types of teeth. Okay? This means what? This means we're fully done with classification of vertebrates. Let's quickly recap. Look, let's use F here, A here, R, B for birds, and M for mammals, okay? I'm going to show you the feature in the chat box. Show me which one does it apply to, okay? You may use more than one letter, okay? So again, scales, which in the chat box, tell me which letters apply to animals with scales. So how many of those in front of you got scales? There are actually 3. Can you identify those 3? Good job, Lamar. She got them right. 3 of these got scales, which is what? It's this, it's that, including birds on their feet. All right? If I say milk, that's nobody but mammals. Do you remember that word? We just took it. Do you remember what does that mean? The word pinna. It's this, right? Ear flap. Fur is for whom? Who has fur? Fur is like hair, right? Nobody has hair except for birds don't have hair. Be careful. Birds have feathers, right? Moist skin, moist, smooth skin. No scales, just moist skin. What am I gonna pick here? I am gonna pick amphibians, right? Which is the only one that got no legs? Which is the only one in front of you that has no eggs? What am I saying? No legs, not no eggs, okay? No legs is for fish. Scaly legs, scales only on their legs. And that is what? This. Need to choose 2 now. Choose 2 that are warm-blooded. So where am I gonna pick? Warm-blooded. Find it. That's gonna be what? Not reptiles. Reptiles are not warm-blooded, right? Reptiles are not. It's only this and this. Okay? Which is the only one that has 4 types of teeth. Think about it, which is the only one that has 4 types of teeth. It's mammals, right? Which is the only one that comes with dry scales, which is the only one of these that comes with dry scales, not moist. It's reptiles. You may tell me birds have dry scales on the feet, yes, but it's more likely to be mammals here, right? 2 of what you have jelly eggs. So which 2 come with jelly eggs? Can you pick 2 that comes with eggs that are jelly? It's this and that, right? The last one, no skin covering, which is the one that doesn't come with any skin covering, right? It's frogs, amphibians. Okay. I have a small riddle here for you, which is this one. This is what I call, this thing here is what I call dichotomous key. What is that? A dichotomous key, it's like a tree, like the one you have in front of you, and that's meant to identify living things. How? Just like this, look. Start here. Remember, di means 2, means every part divides into 2. It says has legs, has wings. What vertebrate comes with wings? So which one of those vertebrates comes with wings? That's going to be a bird, right? Do we need to memorize the name of that key? Yeah. you need to know what the name of that key is called. Dichotomous key. Dichotomous key. Here it says has no fur and has no scales. Can you guys identify which organism is this one? It has no wings, it has no scales, and it has no fur. Which one has no skin covering at all? It's not a reptile, it's an amphibian, right? Reptiles have a skin covering. Which is the only one that has fur? Which is the only one has fur in it? It's mammals. Okay. Someone's asking, is dichotomous key a type of question or what? Dichotomous key, it's a tree, like the one you have here, and it's meant to identify living things. What about this one? It has scales and no wings. So what's the only one I have here? The only one I have here, scales, no wings, must be reptiles. The last one I have here is going to be what? Guess. The only one that has no legs. That must be what? That must be fish. Okay? All right. Now, let me show you the cutest thing you have seen so far today, which is this one here. They gave us this picture and they wanted us, just in general, you don't need only to use that picture, you need just in general to say what features you would expect to find in a mammal. Again, your answer doesn't have to be from the picture, but the picture is good to remind you of features of mammals. So, can someone help me here? Can raise your hand, try to help, and tell me what 3 features you would expect to write here. Tell me, yes. I think Hajar. Sorry, say it again.
Yeah. Basically, I would expect like ear flaps and different types of teeth and hair
Fur,
for mammals.
fur, external ear flap.
And different types of teeth.
All right. And 4 types of teeth. I may say warm-blooded, I may say give birth, produce milk, mammary glands. All of these are acceptable. Now, slightly more difficult question. It says, state how scientists could show that 2 groups of the animal belong to the same species. Can somebody find this? How could we tell if they belong to the same species? We learned 2 methods today, right? Can somebody tell us 2 ways we could tell if they belong to the same species? Look, one way is this. One way, do you remember the donkey and horse thing? You can breed them, right? You can breed and see if they produce fertile offspring. So one way, you say breed and see if they produce fertile offspring. Good? That's one way, right? Alternatively, what can you write here? You can also say, study their DNA and see if there are similarities. Okay? The more similarities, the more likely that they belong to the same species. Some people wrote morphology or appearance. Is not like strong evidence, right? Why is not strong evidence? Because they may look alike. They may look so much alike, but looks are misleading, right? Looks might be very misleading. So that's why we rely on what? Rely on what I've written here. Where did I write it? Where did it go? I think I deleted it. Did you write it? fertile offspring. Okay. Good. Yeah, so I'm gonna do the last bit of today's lesson, which is this one. It's the second part of the animal kingdom, right? It's about these guys here. Okay. What about them? Those is what I call invertebrates. Okay. Why? Simply because they don't have a backbone. These animals usually, like, what do they have all in common? We call them all arthropods, right? So let me fix the spelling. They're called, let me write their names, arthropods. What's an arthropod? An arthropod is an animal that has some really unique features, which is what? First, is the fact that they are segmented. What does segmented mean? Segmented means like divided like this. Chuk, 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 chuk. Segmented body. Second is their legs. How many joints you have in your legs? Your leg has your knee and your ankle. But those animals come with many joints in their legs, right? Like jointed legs. Third feature of arthropods is the fact that their skeleton is on the outside. Not like you and me, right? Like me has my skull inside my head, right? My backbone is inside my body. But for arthropods, think about like you eating a shrimp. How would you eat a shrimp? To eat a shrimp, you must remove its skeleton from the outside, and then you eat what's inside, right? Do you know what I call this? I call this exoskeleton. Exoskeleton. All right? So how many features? Exoskeleton, jointed legs, and the body is segmented, right? So again, that's very, very important question they ask very, very often, which is, what are the features of arthropods? Jointed legs, segmented body, exoskeleton, right? And there's one last feature which is less important than the rest. Like the mark scheme or the answer of the exam will have those three as essential. This one's less important. What does that last one mean? It means like if you take an insect, like the one I have here, the body of the insect is divided into two identical parts. We call that bilateral symmetry. Not like me and you, right? Like my heart is on my left side of the body, all right? And my one of my lungs is bigger than the rest, the other one, right? So these animals do have those unique features. They divide, the body is like mirror image of one another. That's what makes them very special. Okay. Let me show you those, like the groups of arthropods. We have first group here, we call it insects. The second one I have, we call it, they're mostly spiders. And we call this group, we call it arachnids. Third one is what we call crustaceans. And the fourth one I have, we call them myriapods. Right? So again, let me just briefly, I'm gonna explain this next class in more details, but let's just briefly go over it. Insects. What makes insects very special from other arthropods? It's number 3. All insects come with 3 pairs of legs. All insects come with 3 body parts. All insects come with very special eyes. Look, don't be scared. All insects come with what I call compound eyes. What's a compound eye? Not like my eye, right? My eye is single. We call it simple. But insects come with many, many, many tiny eyes. We call them compound. All right. So again, what special features of insects? Compound eyes, 3 pairs of legs, 3 body parts, just this one here. And fourth one is the fact that they have compound eyes. All right. The second group is arachnids. Number 4 reminds me of arachnid because they have, instead of 3, they come with 4 pairs of legs this time. The eyes, not like insect. How was the eyes of insects? The eyes of insects were compound, but the eyes here are simple and many. Like all around their heads, arachnids or spiders have simple eyes. Okay? Crustaceans. Now we had 3 for insects, right? 3 pairs of legs. 4 pairs of legs for arachnids. 5 pairs of legs when it comes to crustaceans. Other than this, the eyes here, remember the eyes of insects? These? The eyes of crustaceans are compound. Next time you eat a shrimp, stare at its eyes. It's actually compound. All right? You see, I'm increasing the number of legs. 3, 4, 5 pairs of legs. Now comes what? Now comes the nematodes, like centipedes and millipedes. Those come with very large number of legs. More like minimum would be 40 pairs of legs. All right. I know I went too fast on this part. I'm gonna go over this tomorrow. I'm just giving you like an introduction here. All right. So again, let's sum up all about arthropods and then we stop. Okay. Look, if I say exoskeleton, this would apply to whom? Think about it. Does that apply to 1, 2, 3, or everyone? Remember, this feature is general for all arthropods. Okay? That's all of them. 2 have simple eyes. Which ones have simple eyes? The ones that have simple eyes is what? It's, I'm going to put this on top like this here. The one that has simple eyes is this guy here and this one here. Okay? Which has compound eyes, but no wings. Anyone knows which one has compound eye? The eyes are compound, but doesn't come with wings. This has wings, right? And compound. But this guy has compound, but you would never find a shrimp with wings, right? What's an antennae? Look, this comes with antennae. Even this. Even this. Those are the sense organs. They detect the surrounding. So yeah, which one has no antennae whatsoever? The only one that doesn't come with antennae is the arachnid spider. Do you remember the number of legs? They were like 3, 4, 5, and too many. So which one has large number of legs? Which one has 5? It's this guy here, right? Antennae and simple eyes. Antennae with simple eyes. This has simple, right? And this has simple, right? So I want antennae and simple eyes. It's going to be the myriapod, the last one here. Okay? So let me tell you about tomorrow's class. Tomorrow's class is just like today's class. It's going to be like 5 p.m. where I live, we're gonna continue what we started like about arthropods. I know we went too fast. Okay, we're gonna be solving questions about what we did today. Questions. Also, we will have a quiz tomorrow on what we did today, so like we could stay on track. Okay. So that's all what we are meant to do today. If you have questions, just stay after class. If you don't have questions, you can leave.
Hi, sir.
Hi, how is it? You can talk now?
Yeah, I can talk now.
Raise
I
your
don't,
hand. When you raise your hand, you can talk. Okay?
yeah, it wasn't showing the mic option where I can unmute.
Yeah. So now on, you can talk. You know how to talk, okay?
Yeah, okay, that's good.
Right.
See, the problem is tomorrow I don't think I'm going to be free.
All
So
right.
I don't know if I will attend the class
Okay.
tomorrow.
No problem.
Yeah. So maybe if I can do the quiz maybe next time I attend the class.
All right. Would you be able to attend on other Thursdays, or is it only tomorrow?
Thursdays, yes, because I actually do swimming classes. So I'm available at Wednesday and on weekends.
All right. So maybe I send you the quiz like after class.
Yeah, sure. Like
All
right
right.
now, I do it now. Yeah, no problem.
Now it's difficult. It has to be tomorrow.
Okay, then you can just send me the quiz and I'll do it myself.
All right. Yeah, if you finish, we can leave. You can leave. You don't have questions.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Bye then.
Bye-bye.